Welcome. So, in this session, we'll be discussing on the title Identification and Assessing Risk. So, identification and assessing risk is a fundamental step in the risk management process, especially in information security. So, this process ensures organization understand what asset need protection and what threats exist and where vulnerabilities may be present. The main steps include assess inventory, threat identification, and vulnerability assessment. And next one is asset inventory and threat identification. So the first step is to create a asset inventory. So this means identifying all assets within the organization that require protection. So assets can be physical such as servers and computers or intangible such as the data and intellectual property. So these threats can be external, like hackers, malware, or natural disaster, or internal, such as disgranulated employees or accidental data breaches. As an example, for this, university lists students' database, faculty laptop, and research data as assets and identifies threats like phishing, email, malware, and insider misuse. And the next one is vulnerability assessment. After identifying the assessments and threats, the next step is to assess the vulnerabilities. Vulnerabilities are the weakness in the organization system, process, or control that could exploit by threats. So these may include software bugs, outdated hardware, misconfiguration networks, or human factors like lack of training. As an example for this vulnerability assessment, an organization discovers that several servers are running outdated operating systems, making them vulnerable to ransomware attacks. And the next one is the types of risk assessment. So there are four main types of risk assessment. First one is risk analysis. So examining the livelihood of impact of risk. Second is risk prioritization, ranking risk to focus on the most significant ones. Third one is risk evaluation, determining if current controls are adequate. And the fourth one is risk acceptance, deciding if some risk can be tolerated without further action. So each type helps organization manage the risk more efficiently. And the next one is risk analysis. So risk analysis involves evaluating the probability that a threat will exploit in a vulnerability and the potential consequences if it happens. So this can done quantitatively using categories like low, medium, or high, or quantitatively using mathematical models and matrices. As a real world example for this risk analysis, a bank uses a quantitative analysis to estimate the potential financial loss from a data breach, helping to justify investment in a stronger security controls. And the next one is risk prioritization. Once the risks are analyzed, they must be prioritized based on their significance and potential impact. So the risks are very high livelihood and the impact are given the highest priority for mitigation. As a real world example, the hospital prioritized risk to patient safety and critical systems over minor IT issues. And the next one is the risk evaluation and acceptance. Risk evaluation involves reviewing the organization current controls and mitigation measures to determine if they are effective. Some risk may be adapted if their livelihood and impact are low or if the cost of migration outweighs the potential loss. All the decision about the risk assessment should be documented. As an example for this, a company accepts the risk to monitor the website downtime during the scheduled maintenance as the impact in minimal and mitigation cost are high. And the next one is tools and techniques for risk identification and assessment. So organization use various tools and techniques to identify and assess the risk. So the first one is a risk register. So database to documents risk and their livelihood, impact and mitigate measures. Risk assessment methods next. So the quantitative and the semi-quantitative approaches, these are. So maintaining a risk register ensures transparency and helps to track the risk management actions. And the next one is threat modeling. So the threat modeling is a systematic technique to identify and analyze potential threats to specific assets or systems. It helps organization to understand the possible attack vectors and the prioritize the security control based on the real world scenarios. As a real world example for this threat modeling, a software company uses threat modeling to anticipate how attackers might target a new mobile application, allowing them to design a stronger security from the start. Okay, so as a summary for this identification, assessing the risk, so it is a structural process involving asset inventory, threat detection, vulnerability assessment, risk analysis, prioritization, evaluation, and acceptance. So by following these steps, organization can proactively manage risk and allocate resources to protect their most critical assets. So this is the end of this topic, and I'll again meet you in another new topic. Thank you for listening all.